Today we are going to be talking about salt and cooking foods. On some foods you should use it before cooking, some during, and some after. We'll go over what you should do when here on Jen's Creativity Corner. There are two main uses for salt: flavor and moisture control. So if you're looking at something like jerky, while we love the saltiness, a big thing in food preservation is that it draws out the moisture and makes it safer. So we're going to look at those two aspects for different foods. First, we are going to be looking at pasta, which, as you can see, you want to salt that water before you put it in. That way the salt is evenly distributed and really soaks up into that starch. Same thing for potatoes. You want that to penetrate the food, and the same thing for rice. That way you don't just add those granules on top. It really permeates through all the food, giving you a good even flavor. Because of the moisture content in mushrooms, you actually do not want to salt them first. They actually have a lot of moisture in them, and the salt tends to draw that out. So the liquid is just going to be a runny black mess and not be as great of texture. So it's recommended go ahead and salt them after they are done cooking. Eggplant is one of those where it also draws out the moisture, but this is something you want to do. They have a spongy, large pore to them, which will soak up things like oil easily, and also it does have a little bit of bitterness. And putting that salt on for about half an hour or so ahead of time helps draw that out. So you heavily salt both sides. After that, as you can see here, all the moisture has been drawn out, kind of beaded up there, and you'll just rinse it off with some cold water and then pat it dry with a paper towel. This isn't an absolutely necessary step, but if you have the time, it's definitely worth it. Beans are one of the ingredients that you do not want to salt before or during cooking. Now, if it's canned, it's already pre-cooked, you're good to go. But if you are soaking dried, as I have in this, you do not want to add it, because adding the salt just changes the way the proteins cook up, and it takes a significantly longer time to get it to cook. They just get tough and you will regret it. So definitely make sure to add your seasoning with that salt later. When it comes to cooking onions, it just depends on what you are looking for texturally and flavor-wise. If you want to sweat the onions, you want to have more moisture involved. So go ahead and salt them up well. It'll help draw out that moisture, and honestly, packing in more onions helps again with that sweating. Basically, they're steamed and they don't get very dark, but they are very soft. Now, if you are going to caramelize, which is what I usually do just because I like the flavor, you do not want any salt in there, and you don't want to overcrowd the pan, and you'll want to maybe not toss and turn them quite as often. You'll get the nice brown caramelization. That color on there is so much flavor, and you'll also get it on the bottom of the pan. So that is up to you which style you like, but now you know whether or not you should salt while cooking or wait till afterwards. My caramelization, I left the room for a little bit, so it did get a little darker and not as consistent as I would like, but you get the picture. When it comes to salting meat for cooking, that is a little bit trickier. Some people say in advance or after is better because it doesn't make it dry out. Basically, it's not pulling out that moisture, so well in advance or after cooking. Others say to make sure you do it before cooking, because as the proteins cook, the cell walls of the meat will shrink and close up, and it doesn't accept the flavor as well, which does make sense. So best recommendation, do it well in advance. Maybe salt it, let it come to room temperature for half an hour or more, maybe marinate it in the fridge. It's probably your best bet for the best distribution of flavor and moisture, but that is, like I said, a little bit trickier. And last but not least, salt is actually really important in baked goods. It helps regulate the leavening, and if it is something sweet, it just gives it a little pop of sweetness when you add that saltiness to it. Salt can come in a variety of shapes and sizes, whether it's kosher salt, sea salt, iodized salt, salt from a cave or a mountain. I have here some Polish salt from a salt mine that I got to visit in Poland, and I just grind it up myself, fun little souvenir. And it's cool, it has different minerals in it. As you can see here, I got to lick the walls of the salt mine, and my husband as well. Good times. An important tip to remember is that salt can always be added later. Don't over salt in the cooking process, because once it's in there, you are not getting it back out. And last tip that I will mention, make sure you do get some good iodized salt in your diet. Iodine is important for your thyroid health, and having too little of it can actually give you some health problems. So make sure at least one of yours that you occasionally get has some iodine in it. Thank you so much for joining me here again on Jen's Creativity Corner. If you found this information valuable, please share it. I've got a Facebook page where you can share this video and other stuff as well. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we will see you on Thursday with a crafting video.